Marcus DeKaiser here with the Golf Facility, and I want to show you what an initial putting lesson looks like with me. First, when we get the player in here, we're going to do a stroke analysis. We're going to show the player what needs to happen versus what is happening. Next, we're going to educate the player on why the changes need to happen so the player can mentally buy in and understand what needs to happen, and they can make the changes easier. Next, we're going to do a putter analysis. So we're going to look at the player's putter and make sure that it fits them and educate them. Two of the most important aspects of the putter is the putter model and the length. Also, lie angle, loft, and grip is important, but the two most important aspects of the putter fitting a player is the model type and is the length. Once we've showed the player what we need to make changes on, then we're going to go ahead and implement some of the changes with golf instruction. And I really like to use a lot of visual aids or teaching aids to help the player make the changes a lot quicker. Then once the player has made some of the changes and they really just need repetition and time, then I like to take away the training aids and the visual aids and just let the player work and understand what the process is to get better. And then finally, in closing in the lesson, I want to make sure that the player understands the process and understands their homework before they come back for their second lesson. So let's show you the process of a putting lesson. First, I like to get them on camera and just make one stroke. Then I like to get them on camera again from a different angle and have the player hit 3 or 4 strokes so I can see their stroke type. Now that we've helped the player recognize some of their setup issues that need to be changed and some of their stroke issues that need to be changed, then we're going to go ahead and come out to our putting green and we're going to try to make some of those changes with teaching aids. And one of the teaching aids that I really love is the putting board. And it's a very simple teaching aid that helps the player keep the putting stroke on plane. With this teaching aid, it's very easy for the player to keep the putter on plane and work to keep the putter blade square throughout the stroke. So before we hit any balls, I have the player just go back and forth on the putting board. We talk about plane, we talk about keeping the putter face square, and then we also talk about length of the stroke. And we talk about a 70-30 putting stroke concept, where 70% of the stroke is your backswing and 30% is your follow through. It gets it away from that 50-50 mentality where players really struggle to control the distance. They get real pushy with it. They're trying to guide it when the stroke is 50-50, where half of the stroke is the backswing, half is the follow through. You really get into guiding a lot of putts, and it's really hard to control the distance this way. The 70-30 putting stroke is just a more compact, it's more clean putting stroke. So first we're going to start by just going back and forth on the putting board. Once I feel that they have that concept, then we'll go ahead and let them hit balls. Again, as they're hitting balls, we're helping them develop a putting routine. Walking up and just hitting balls is not the way to approach putting. So first, we're going to feel the stroke. We're going to feel the length of the stroke, the pace of the stroke. Then I'll go ahead and let them hit a ball. And then all they have to do is just try to execute the stroke that they were just making. And then once the player has the concept of the 70-30, their stroke is a little bit cleaner. They really just need more reps. Then I'll take the putting board away and I'll put them on putt view and we'll let them work on putt view for a little bit. Now with the player on putt view on our putting green, I just ask them to visualize the putting board, the feel of it, the length and the feel of the stroke, and go through that same routine. Again, a pre-shot routine, of just back and forth, trying to feel the length of the stroke, the pace of the stroke. Another thing to really, really work hard on with a player, and it's a lot of discipline, it's hard for a lot of players, is trying to stay down through putts. This is roughly about a 10, 12-foot putt, and I try to get them to understand the concept of listening for the ball to go in the hole. And then wrapping up with the player on a putting lesson, I want to make sure that they understand the process to get better, make sure they understand their homework. I hope this helps and what a good putting lesson looks like.